I want you to think about a very specific physical reaction for a second. Do you ever say the word no to someone and almost instantly your stomach just
Oh,
drops?
yeah. That immediate panic.
Right. Like your heart rate spikes and you are hit with this totally suffocating wave of guilt.
It really is suffocating.
Or, I mean, perhaps you rarely even make it to the word no. You might just find yourself constantly putting everyone else's needs, their schedules and their last-minute emergencies, completely ahead of your own.
And people do that mostly just to keep the peace.
Exactly. But then you end up at the end of the day feeling totally exhausted, deeply resentful, and quietly aware that you were just being taken advantage of. So if you are familiar with that cycle of exhaustion, you are in exactly the right place.
It is an incredibly common dynamic, and honestly, it is entirely by design. We're culturally conditioned to operate this way, which is what makes our focus today so crucial.
Yeah, today, the mission of this deep dive is to completely dismantle that exact cycle. We've got a really fascinating source in front of us today. It's a comprehensive breakdown of therapist Nedra Glover Tawwab's insights from her book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace.
Such a great
It
resource.
really is. And our goal here is to unpack the mechanics of, how to actually stop people-pleasing,
Hmm.
how to protect your energy and reclaim your life without being paralyzed by the guilt or the drama we always imagine will follow.
Well, to get there, we really need to start with a fundamental paradigm shift regarding how we even view the concept of a boundary. I mean, most of us think of boundaries as a weapon.
Oh, totally. Like an attack.
Right. We think they are inherently aggressive or that they are just about being mean and keeping people away. But the reality we're going to explore today is the complete opposite. Boundaries are not about being mean. They are a fundamental, non-negotiable requirement for being a healthy human being.
Okay, so before we define what a healthy boundary actually looks like, I think it's helpful to look at what life looks like when you don't have them.
That's a great place to start.
The source text gives this really relatable look at the myth of the person who is simply, quote, too nice. The author introduces us to a 32-year-old teacher named Maya.
Right, Maya.
Yeah, and if you ask literally anyone in Maya's life, they would tell you she is the kindest, most caring person alive. She's always smiling, always willing to help.
But behind the scenes, it's a completely different story.
Exactly. Behind the scenes, she is answering unpaid work emails at 11 o'clock at night. She is babysitting her sister's kids every single weekend, even when she is running on empty.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's lending money to friends who she knows will never pay her back. She says yes to absolutely every social invite just to avoid letting anyone down. So underneath that nice exterior, Maya is angry, and she's experiencing total burnout.
And what's fascinating here is that the societal diagnosis of Maya's problem is usually, well, she's just too nice for her own good.
Right, people praise her for it.
Exactly. But a clinical conclusion, which is based on 20 years of therapy practice, is that Maya's problem has absolutely nothing to do with being nice. Maya's problem is that she has zero boundaries.
Not at all.
Right. Because she has no limits, she is suffering. We really have to separate the idea of boundaries from the idea of selfishness. I mean, they aren't about building these massive emotional walls to hide behind, and they definitely aren't about being cold.
So the text defines a boundary purely and simply as a limit. It is the limit you set to protect your time, your energy, your emotional well-being, and, your physical space.
It's simply where you end and someone else begins.
Right. They aren't ultimatums or aggressive demands. They are
Ugh.
just clear statements of what works and what doesn't work for you. So, okay, let's unpack this. Is setting a boundary essentially like drawing a property line around your house?
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Like if I put a small fence around my yard, it doesn't mean I hate my neighbors. It just means they can't park their car on my front lawn.
That analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. You are defining the space where you have jurisdiction. It's your yard, your rules. I mean, you need to sleep, so you don't want people doing donuts on the grass at 2 in the morning.
Right, exactly.
It just establishes a healthy perimeter.
But if this concept is as simple and logical as a property line, we really have to ask why setting a boundary feels like breaking a fundamental rule. I mean, it often feels inherently wrong to just ask someone not to park on the lawn.
Oh, absolutely. And that internal friction goes straight back to childhood conditioning.
How so?
Well, the text points out how we are socialized, particularly women. From a very young age, we are taught that our intrinsic worth comes from making other people happy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We are actively rewarded for being accommodating. We get praise for being flexible and selfless. So when you spend your formative years being told that saying yes makes you a good person, saying no naturally feels like a complete betrayal of your own character.
You've essentially been programmed to view self-preservation as a character flaw.
Exactly. And there is a quote from the text that just completely shatters this illusion. The quote is, "Healthy relationships have boundaries. Unhealthy relationships have none."
That reframes the entire goal of our social interactions.
It really does. The relationships in your life that are actually worth keeping are the ones that survive you having a property line.
Right. Because the relationships that instantly fall apart the second you set a boundary, well, they were built entirely on the fact that you had none,
They were built on your compliance, not on mutual respect.
which is a really difficult truth to accept.
It is, but it's a necessary one if you want to move forward. So once you realize you need that property line, you kind of have to figure out where to actually draw it.
Yeah, because boundaries aren't just about saying no when someone asks you to help them move.
Right. The text actually outlines 6 distinct dimensions of our daily lives where these limits need to exist.
6 of them. Okay, let's go through them.
So the most obvious application is our physical boundary. This is about your actual body and your personal space. It covers things like who is allowed to touch you, how close they can stand, and your need for physical alone time.
So a violation here would be pretty visceral, like someone hugging you when you clearly don't want to be touched.
Yes, or a relative just bursting into your bedroom without knocking.
Okay, that makes sense.
And beyond the physical body, there is our physical stuff, which falls under material boundaries. This covers your money and your physical possessions. Like, are you comfortable lending money? Who actually gets to borrow your car?
So a violation is like the friend who borrows your favorite sweater and somehow it just permanently enters their wardrobe.
We all know that
Yeah.
friend. Or, family members who conveniently forget their wallets and expect you to cover dinner.
Right. Okay, so that's physical and material.
Then there's time boundaries. The logic of finite resources applies perfectly here. Just as you have finite money, you have finite hours in your day.
So a time boundary violation would be a boss calling you on a Sunday and expecting you to work.
Exactly. Or when friends get genuinely angry that you won't drop everything you're doing to help them run an errand, you only have so much time and you get to dictate how it is spent.
Wait, I want to zero in on this next one, the emotional boundary. Because the source gave an example that initially tripped me up, and I think it feels the most controversial.
Okay, let's unpack it.
The text defines an emotional boundary as protecting your own feelings and not taking on the emotions of other people. But then the example of a violation is a mother saying to her adult child, "If you don't visit me every week, I'll be so lonely and depressed."
Right.
And the text calls this a violation because she is making her emotional state your responsibility. But wait, isn't it completely natural to care if your mom is lonely? How is that a boundary violation?
That is such a common reaction to this point. The distinction here lies in the vital difference between caring about someone's feelings and being responsible for managing them.
Okay. Empathy versus management.
Exactly. It is entirely appropriate to feel empathy for a lonely parent. However, when she says, "If you don't visit, I will be depressed," she is actually assigning you the job of regulating her internal world.
Wow.
She is stating that her happiness is entirely dependent on your actions. And that is just an impossible burden for you to carry. I mean, you can offer support, but you cannot be the sole manager of another adult's emotional state.
That makes so much sense. When you take on the management role, you cross the line from empathy into total enmeshment.
Right. It's the difference between offering a lifeline and letting someone tie the rope around your neck.
That is a stark visual, but it's true. Okay, so what are the last two?
The deeper, more internal lines, intellectual boundaries, which involve having your thoughts and ideas respected. These get violated when someone belittles your beliefs or just constantly dismisses your ideas as stupid.
Oh, that happens a lot in the workplace.
It really does. And finally, sexual boundaries, which govern consent, your comfort levels with physical intimacy, and, just having your no respected in those spaces.
Seeing them all laid out like that really demonstrates how many areas of our lives require these limits.
It does. And the expert in the source text emphasizes a really crucial rule that applies across all 6 of these types. The rule is prevention is better than repair.
Right.
You really shouldn't wait until a boundary is explicitly and painfully violated to finally set one. I mean, you lock your front door to prevent a robbery. You don't wait for your house to be robbed to finally install a lock.
Which brings up this fascinating paradox, I think. Because if prevention is better than repair, and it makes logical sense to lock the door, why do we wait?
That is the million-dollar question.
Like, why do we wait until we are completely burned out, angry, and resentful, like Maya from our first example, to actually speak up?
Because we're basically fighting against our own psychology here. The author points out three massive hurdles that stop us. And the first one is just a huge fear of conflict.
We just imagine the other person getting hurt or angry or starting this huge argument.
Exactly. We preemptively decide it is somehow safer to just swallow our discomfort and say yes.
And here is where it gets really interesting, because the text has this mind-blowing quote regarding that exact fear of conflict. The quote is, "Someone's anger at your boundary is beta. It tells you they benefited from you having none."
That quote is a massive paradigm shift. It completely changes how you process another person's reaction.
Because usually, if someone gets mad when I say no, my internal monologue immediately jumps to, "Oh no, I did something wrong. I'm a bad person. I need to fix this right now."
Right, but viewing their anger as data is a complete reversal of that instinct. It stops you from viewing their anger as an indicator of your own failure.
Okay.
So if you tell a friend you can no longer be on the phone past 9 p.m. because you need to sleep and they explode at you, that explosion is just neutral information. It proves that their convenience was relying entirely on your exhaustion.
Wow. They were profiting off your lack of limits.
Exactly. You have to firmly remind yourself that you are responsible for your own well-being, not for managing their disappointment.
Not managing their disappointment that they no longer have endless access to your energy. That is so powerful.
It really is. Now, that fear of conflict usually triggers the second massive hurdle, which is guilt.
Ah, yes, the guilt.
It's this lingering belief that taking care of yourself is inherently selfish, and that your needs just simply matter less than everyone else's.
But even if you manage to push past the fear and the guilt, there is a purely mechanical problem, which is the third hurdle. A lot of us just don't know how. We have never seen a healthy boundary successfully modeled in our entire lives.
We really don't have a script for it. But setting boundaries isn't an innate personality trait. You aren't just born with it. It is a communication skill.
Which means it can be learned.
Exactly. Like any skill, it comes with a formula you can learn and practice.
And the source breaks down an exact, actionable three-step formula for executing this in the real world. Let's go through it.
Yeah.
Step 1 is to identify the problem.
Right. You have to get very clear on what is bothering you.
But the key here is that it must be framed entirely around your own feelings, not as an attack on the other person. So instead of saying, you are a selfish user, you would say, "I feel resentful because I drive us everywhere and you never offer gas money."
It's all about owning your internal state. And that leads to step 2, which is where the actual communication happens. You must communicate clearly and calmly.
Using simple, direct language.
Yes. But what is really critical here is what is not allowed in this step. You absolutely cannot start your sentence with, "I'm sorry, but..."
No apologies.
None. You also cannot offer long, rambling justifications where you try to prove why you deserve the boundary. And you do not ask for permission. You just state the limit, like, "I don't answer work emails after 6 p.m.
I want to really unpack why that apology is so destructive. Saying, "I'm sorry," signals that you believe you are actually doing something wrong.
Right. It completely undermines your stance.
It invites the other person to either forgive you or negotiate with you. The golden rule from the text is that no is a complete sentence, because a flat statement just closes the door to debate.
Which brings us perfectly to step 3, hold the boundary.
This is where it gets tough.
This is where the friction happens in the real world. You communicate the limit clearly without apologizing, and they immediately hit you with a massive guilt trip.
Right, so what happens then? Like, say you hold the boundary, someone asks you to babysit, you say you aren't available, and they respond with, "Fine, I guess I'll just figure it out myself," or "You're being so selfish."
To handle that exact pushback, the text introduces a really great tool called the broken record technique.
The broken record.
Yes. When they push back with guilt or anger, you do not argue. You do not defend yourself, and you definitely do not explain your reasoning again.
You just repeat it.
You simply repeat the boundary exactly as you said it. So if they say they desperately need childcare this Saturday, you say, "I understand you need childcare. I am not available this Saturday."
And if they escalate and attack your character, like calling you selfish,
You do not take the bait. You just calmly repeat, "I am not available this Saturday." The reason this works psychologically is that it deprives the other person of conversational oxygen.
oh, I love that phrase, conversational oxygen.
Every time you explain or defend your boundary, you give them a new surface to attack. By becoming a broken record, you remove their ammunition. You refuse to feed the argument.
I want to speak directly to you listening right now.
Mhm.
If you try this technique, I want to just validate that the very first time you do it, it is going to feel physically awful.
Oh, absolutely.
Your heart might race, your hands might literally shake, and you are going to feel a huge knot of guilt in your stomach. But you have to do it anyway, because every single time you hold a boundary, you are actively teaching people how to treat you.
You are retraining them. And honestly, you are retraining yourself. You're proving to your own brain that your needs actually matter.
But we do have to be honest about the messy aftermath of this process.
Mm.
Once you start using this broken record technique, what actually happens to your life?
The uncomfortable truth is that some people will genuinely not like it.
Yeah.
That friend who uses you to vent at midnight is going to be upset when you cut off access. The coworker who dumps their projects on you might actually complain to the boss.
But the source provides a really grounding thought for this exact moment. The quote is, "Their discomfort is not your problem, it's theirs."
It's such a freeing concept.
The text also specifically highlights how to apply this to the most difficult groups in our lives. Family is notoriously the hardest, right? Because they always use that excuse, but we're family.
Right, like you can't put rules on family, but you absolutely can. It looks like saying, I won't discuss my relationship at family dinners.
And at work, it's crucial for preventing burnout, saying, "I need this request in writing."
With romantic partners, it's so important because people frequently confuse enmeshment with love. A healthy boundary there sounds like, I need an hour of alone time after work. It doesn't mean I don't love you.
And with friends, saying, "I can't be your therapist, I think you should talk to a professional."
It sounds like an invitation for constant friction, I know.
Yeah.
But the profound benefits outlined in the text make it so worth it. Your resentment disappears because you aren't silently letting people take advantage of you anymore.
Your daily anxiety goes way down.
Yes. Toxic relationships will likely end, which is a good thing. But the healthy relationships in your life will actually get deeper because they are finally based on honesty. For the first time, you actually respect yourself.
So what does this all mean? Setting boundaries doesn't make you, it makes you self-aware. It doesn't push people away, it invites the right people closer.
Because they finally know where the property lines are. The core philosophy of the entire text is really summed up in this one beautiful quote. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously.
I love that. You can love someone and still have limits. You can be kind and protect your energy.
Exactly. And I want to leave the listener with a final, slightly provocative thought that builds on that childhood conditioning we talked about earlier.
Okay, let's hear it.
Since we are taught to lack boundaries because we are rewarded for being accommodating, I want you to look at your own life right now. Think about the areas where you currently receive the absolute most praise from other people.
Oh, this is a great point.
Are they praising your amazing generosity and your work ethic? Or are they actually just enjoying your total lack of limits? Consider the possibility that your biggest compliments are actually just a map of your weakest boundaries.
Wow. Are your biggest compliments actually a map of your weakest boundaries? That is such a brilliant lens to look through.
It really makes you evaluate why people are clapping for you.
It does. And if you are realizing right now that your property lines are pretty much non-existent, your call to action today is to start with just one small limit.
Just one.
Tell a friend you can't answer texts after 9 p.m. Say no to a tiny favor. It will be uncomfortable, yes. But on the other side of that discomfort is the exact peace and freedom you have been exhausted trying to find.